Hey, I'm Jade, and this is episode 5 of the Backline Beat Podcast, where I talk to country artist Chase Mitchell. We talk about his early beginnings in a boy band when he was 9, to opening for Taylor Swift, and what he's doing now, and a little bit about his favorites. Without further ado, here we go.
On y'all, my name is Chase Mitchell. I'm a country singer, songwriter. I'm also a husband and a father. We live here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm just a dude chasing my purpose through music.
Can you talk about like when you started? It was quite young, right?
Yeah, I was actually the age of my oldest daughter, Brooklyn. Now she's 9 years old. So I was 9 years old when I got my first recording contract and management contract. I was very, very young. I was in a boy band called Lucky. We did a lot of stuff with like Radio Disney, and it was like a cheesy concert series called Peanut Butter and Jams. So this was like back when like Lil Romeo and like Aaron Carter was like just getting started, early 2000s.
Yes. And you toured like with Destiny's Child, did you not? And like Outkast and stuff like that?
We got to open for like on the Disney radio stuff. There was all sorts of events that they'd have us come, and we would open up for kind of whatever the big artist was at the time. So like Vitamin C, Lil Zane, Outkast, Destiny's Child before they became really just Beyonce. There was a lot of crazy moments that I recall. It was wild. It was definitely an amazing experience. So young.
How did you find after that? How did you find your way to country? Did you had a bit of a pop career in between the country careers? Am I right?
When I was about 14 years old when the boy band that I had been in for a few years was kind of starting just break up and do their own thing. Everyone kind of went their own ways. Tim stayed in Atlanta. Justin went out to LA, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? So I tried going back to school for like a year, and I had just nothing in common with like any of the students. And it was difficult for me to go back to school after those few years of, being homeschooled and being on the road. So immediately my parents were like, all right, if music's what you want to do, we have a few contacts there in Nashville, because at the time my parents kind of kept up with like all of my like affairs, because I was only like 9, 10, 11 years old, and so I didn't remember at the time, but now I'm a huge fan of his. But Mark Wills we had opened up for, and he was like a huge 90s country like superstar, and so my parents had kept his contact and knew someone in Nashville in his camp. And so we quickly realized that just because someone, doesn't mean anything in Nashville. Nashville's a town that you really have to like be in, and you have to immerse yourself, and you got to be willing to write for years and go to coffee shops and meet with people and go to their showcases. And it's a relationship town. So that's kind of what got us going and kicked me into the direction of Nashville. And then it would be several years later, kind of pursuing that avenue, that I would end up eventually getting signed to my first booking agency as a country artist. And I was like 15 or 16 at the time, and with Buddy Lee Attractions. And they put me on the road doing a bunch of dates. So got to open for like Taylor Swift, Jason Aldean. We got to play some side stages on a festival for Rascal Flatts. There was some really, really cool moments over the years of working for the agency. But that's pretty much what got me into country music.
So what were you playing? Like, did you have an album then? Like, if you're opening for Taylor Swift, I'm sure this was younger Taylor Swift, kind of early Taylor Swift.
2008. She definitely had started to blow up, because it was wild to see all the people that showed up for her concert. But yeah, this was 2008 country concert in the hills in Fort Laramie, Ohio. It was wild. But no, we didn't have an album out. We didn't have an album out in the pretense of like, it wasn't like out in the market doing huge numbers or signed to a label or anything like that. I had made a couple records at that point in town, here in town, and we were just really relentless. We said yes to everything. So whether it was like a small little club, little smoky bar, or a big festival, And since we said yes to just everything over the course of a few years, it just kind of ended up in a situation where I was opening for a bunch of cool artists at some different festivals throughout the summer and fall. And Taylor Swift just happened to be the headliner that one day. I'll never forget that. That was amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially kind of around that Nashville scene. I'm sure you cross paths because Nashville kind of is that, like you said, it's like kind of that hub. You kind of got to know people and kind of work with everyone.
Yeah, our paths definitely crossed like back in the day a little bit, because really there was only like between teenagers in country music that were trying to make it, that were more pop. It was really just Taylor and I. Billy Graham had kind of blown up a little bit but he wasn't really like a crossover country artist. He was more traditional. So it was really just Taylor and I that was, that young, doing pop country before pop country was even like a thing. I know she probably went through all of her phases of feeling like an outsider, just like I have. As a matter of fact, actually, we just got back from Chicago. I took my daughters and my wife. My producer and co-manager, Danny Rader, hooked up some Taylor Swift tickets in Chicago this last weekend. And we just spent the weekend in Chicago seeing her, it's amazing to see how far she's come, and she stayed true to her guns. But yeah, our paths have crossed now a few times.
So from then till now, can you talk a little bit about kind of that transition? Because I was reading how you kind of took a break from music and maybe tried different avenues.
Yeah, I've always been kind of like a restless soul. I hate just as soon as someone kind of labels you as something. I'm the kind of dude that like, don't label me something, because then I immediately just going to try to rebel against that and like prove that no, that's not what I am, or don't tell me I can't do something, because then I'm just going to only focus on trying to do that one thing. But no, I took a break. Country music was becoming something I didn't really understand anymore or recognize, and I couldn't understand why people were having such a hard time kind of adapting to my pop country R&B infused stuff, because it's just what I naturally wrote. So sometimes in life, and this is kind of like a life lesson, especially for like the viewers out there, you don't have to change, but sometimes you just have to be patient and let things catch up, let things work themselves out in due time. And so it turned out that exactly what I thought I needed to do is what I had to do, which was take a few years off, take a pause. I've been doing this one thing my whole life. What's a couple years, just to relax and write. And in those few years that I had taken off from music, country music kind of caught up to this space of pop oriented R&B. So you got Dan and Shay killing it. You've got Kane Brown killing it. You've got Bailey Zimmerman killing it. Like in this moment in time where it's Morgan Wallen. I mean, his whole album is basically a hip hop country album. It's very R&B hip hop based. And so it just needed time to catch up, and I'm glad that it has.
So talk a little about your new upcoming album, Chase Your Purpose. When did that start?
So that was my mantra. When I took 3 or 4 years off of music, tried focusing on just trying to be the best dad I could be. And when it became evident that music was pretty much going to be my life, no matter what, I had made one promise to myself and to my family, my girls, my wife. And I said, I'm not going to do anything that doesn't feel like it's my purpose. Because, you only get one shot at life, and, you better be doing something that makes you feel alive. And so music was definitely that thing. And the one thing that I needed so that I didn't forget it was like a beacon of hope. So like this hat, my daughter helped me draw the logo. I got it tattooed. It all stands as like a symbol of purpose. Whether you're a painter, a gardener, an interviewer, if you like doing the weather and local weather channel, whatever it is, if you feel like that is your purpose, then nothing makes me more excited than to try to like shape what I'm doing around a conversation of encouraging people to chase their purpose. Because I knew if I could get to that point, that it would be bigger than myself. It wouldn't be just about, me trying to, sell 1 million records. It would be about a message. And I'm just very thankful that a lot of people have been kind of responding to it and like kind of latching onto it. Like I get messages all the time now where they're like, man, I hated this job that I was working. And, I always thought that, I could be an amazing chef, and I never really took the time. But I tell you what, I follow you and you're always talking about chasing your purpose. And I signed up for cooking classes and now I'm taking my first job as a corporate chef for a restaurant. And I just don't know if that would have been possible without, you basically annoying the crap out of us on your social media feeds with this whole statement of chase your purpose. It's not always going to be easy, but it's guaranteed to be the right thing for you in your life. So yeah, that's kind of why I started running with that. And I figured, well, what better than the title for the first debut album coming back after all these years than Chase Your Purpose.
Has your musical kind of philosophy changed over the years of maybe where you wanted to end up and stuff like that?
Oh, 100%. I used to, so like my whole approach on making songs these days or albums or anything of that nature, it's kind of changed a little bit because before it was, I feel like the industry was all about just like super slick productions, super polished records, where it almost felt like a manufactured product than real. And I think we're in a beautiful moment where people like Zach Bryan or Megan Maroney, are able to make just like honest art, and they're able to convey it. It's not polished, it's not perfect, but it's true. And so I feel like now my approach is trying to adapt more of that. Like, it doesn't have to be the slickest thing you've ever heard coming out of Nashville. It just has to be real, And so that's kind of my approach these days, just trying to be as real and raw as possible.
Yeah, I saw it. I believe it was Tennille Towns, like a reel or something she did, and talked about like trying not to write for the algorithm and trying to kind of stay true to that.
100%. That's so true. I feel like right now, everyone here in town in Nashville, they're all trying to write like the next Morgan Wallen or Bailey Zimmerman hit. But that's already been written, like that, that there is already that space being filled. And so I have to remind myself to not do that. Don't write for the algorithm. Don't write for radio, is the old saying. Just write whatever's your truest thing. So I listen to a lot of international artists. I try to almost like dieting and working out each week. I try to take the same approach and make myself listen to, I'll just pick a country. We have a little globe. So we homeschool our kids and we have a globe. And so sometimes Dad will spin it, pick a little spot in a country just randomly. And I will go Google, okay, who's the most popular artist in this country of this part of the world? And I'll try to listen to the music and try to get a little bit more of a perspective. And I'll give you an example. So a couple weeks ago, I spun the globe and landed on Nigeria. So it's like, I don't know any Nigerian artists, but turns out we do. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Ed Sheeran and Fireboy DML, that song Peru. And that's so I love it. I'm nerding out on it currently. Like, that's my new thing each week. And it's been helping me a lot. It's kind of like expanded my palette, so to speak, for artists.
Do you find doing that you find maybe a little influence that you might want to put into your own music?
Oh, 100%. I immediately started writing more like tropic Caribbean based like ideas. And then there was a few weeks ago, it landed on the UK. I was like, man, what's a big band in the UK? And of course, the 1975 is like the biggest thing. That's pretty much like the United Kingdom's Taylor Swift. So I started listening to a bunch of their music and immediately kind of started writing some, synthwave pop stuff.
You have a few singles out right now. Can you including Strawberry Daiquiris is your latest one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe talk a little bit about those and kind of the influences behind them.
So Strawberry Daiquiris, that's the latest single out that followed our debut single off the project Backroad. And we wanted to kind of switch it because Backroad was well received from country radio. It went up to like number 52. Like, as an independent artist, that was crazy to be on the charts and to be that high up on it without much support. It felt surreal. But we were like, man, we don't need to follow up Backroad with kind of like another somber love song or like love gone wrong song. We need something that's more feel good, more of like a vibe. And so we're like, it's summertime. We got to release Strawberry Daiquiris because that's exactly what it's about. It's about just basically taking your loved one, your spouse, and just making a last minute spontaneous trip down to the beach and just chilling and vibing and drinking Strawberry Daiquiris and just, making the world stand still for a weekend. And so that's what that whole song is basically about. And it came at the right time, right off the heels of Back Road.
I read that you got a Keith Urban written song. I'm not sure if this is true, but it was never released. What's the story behind that?
So I never released, I don't think we ever, no, there's no public, it's not on Spotify or anything like that. So back in, oh gosh, what would this have been? This would have been like, in that 08, 09, 2010 era, there's a company called 1010 Music here in town, and Keith Urban had a catalog with them. And it was all of his kind of, unpublished works, maybe songs that he didn't think were right for him, and he would put with other companies. And a good buddy of mine, it's so funny that you bring this up because I literally just saw him yesterday for the first time in like 10 years. Patrick Clifford, he was running 1010 Music at the time, and he had like 4 or 5 unheard, no one had heard him in town, Keith Urban songs. And I was like, dude, like whatever I got to do, let me listen to these. Let me at least have a chance. And after getting kind of the green light, we were able to listen to a few, and I ended up cutting a song called Things I Believe, which was written by John Shanks and Keith Urban. There might be, if your viewers or listeners go and Google Things I Believe, Chase Mitchell, you might find, I think there might have been like a way deep in the vault lyric video that was released like several years ago. But it's never been released. However, years later, Jimmy Wayne actually cut the same song and released it, but I don't know if his ever went to radio or anything like that. So you could either search Chase Mitchell Things I Believe or Jimmy Wayne Things I Believe, but John Shanks and Keith Urban wrote that song. And those are both huge influences on me. Both those dudes, John Shanks and Keith, amazing talents. And I think really, I mean, that's what kind of inspired me to kind of fuse pop with country as my influence of Keith all these years.
Do you have Keith Urban could be one of them. Do you have any dream collaborations you'd love?
Unfortunately, a lot of them have passed. I mean, I would have loved to have collaborated with Michael Jackson, but living, Bob Dylan, Stevie Wonder, for sure. But if I were to kind of switch gears, I don't know, maybe like a John Mayer, Justin Timberlake collab, something along those lines, I think would be so dope. Maybe even like a Post Malone. I know he's kind of getting into country music a little bit.
Yeah, you're kind of finding some like random like people just like dipping their toe into country for like a song or two.
Yep.
Yeah. Just as we're kind of wrapping up a little bit here, this is a question I ask everyone. If you were to meet a civilization that had never heard music before, what would you play them? It could be one of your songs or any song in history.
Oh man. Whoa, that's a great question. So how many songs am I allowed to play? Can I give them like a little taste so they understand like who we are, where we come from?
Sure, but what's the first song? But you can also say what other songs.
It's Otis Redding, period. Like it's going to be something that's backed by like, all right, guys, like this is where we started from, our rhythm and blues, where we came from, where rock, blues, R&B, country, all. It's going to be something from Otis Redding for sure. Man, maybe Nat Cole. I gotta show him some like Michael Jackson and some Daft Punk or something, like something that just be like, what is going on here? Maybe even some Skrillex. They might say, oh, we know this person because he's an alien.
It's funny you say Otis Redding because I listen to him every so often, and I think it was yesterday or the day before, I'm just like, oh, I'm going to throw in some Otis Redding. So it's funny that you say that.
I just would hate to start the conversation with like Backstreet Boys or Spice Girls. You know what I mean? I'd be like, listen, guys, you got us all wrong. There ain't nothing wrong with them, but you got to know where we started.
Yeah, you kind of had to be around in the 90s to really appreciate them. So getting into a little bit of your favorites, I'm going to make you squirm a little bit because everyone kind of does on this first question. What's your favorite song?
Favorite song ever? Not of mine, like of any artist. Oh man. That's like trying to be like, who's your favorite kid? All right, right now, favorite, probably Into the Mystic, Van Morrison. I've just been vibing on some of that. Um, and then there's the Stevie Wonder song. I can't remember the title of it. It's like, then I was a young girl, down and down and down, beheaded boy. Dun, 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 dun. I've been digging the key by Stevie Wonder. Probably Key of Life, Stevie Wonder. That or His Story by Michael Jackson.
What's your favorite venue to play?
Recently, I got to play the Wharf at Orange Beach, which is it holds like a special place in my heart because I saw last year, we played it twice this year, but last year I saw Kenny Chesney there for the first time, Jimmy Buffett, and Alabama. So like some of my favorite bands. And then a year later, we got to play it twice in the same year for a couple of different cheer competitions. And it was just surreal. It felt like a huge full circle moment. And plus, you can like see the bay and the sailboats from the venue. So I was like, man, that's amazing.
Favorite venue to watch?
Favorite venue to watch so far? Oh man, there was a vineyard that I got to see Jax and BB Rexa play at last year in Napa. It was just a small thing. But the landscape behind them were like these mountains, which is wild because if you've ever been, you would get it. You live on that side of like basically the world, like so like you could literally see like snow in the mountains, but it was like 75 degrees and sunny, but it was just trippy seeing that side, that upper kind of Pacific Northwest side of the country. I'd never seen anything like that before. I honestly felt like I was in another country. So it was a small thing, but some dope artists. I don't know if you're familiar with Jax or BB Rexa, but some super. Jax is the artist that sings "I Know Victoria's Secret" and "Girl, You Wouldn't." Yeah, a little pop rock girl. She's super dope, super sweet girl too.
Yeah, I can walk about 30 seconds that way and look north and see the mountains. So
basically, like what's behind you. You're.
Favorite city to have a day off in?
Oh man. I guess it depends on what time of the year. If it's like summertime, sunny, somewhere in the Gulf Coast of Florida for sure, because it's just the beaches are beautiful, the weather's great. But if it's not, then probably over there in California. Getting to spend some more time on the West Coast this last year, and it's been a treat. So Santa Monica, maybe Malibu, something like that. I know it sounds corny, but it is beautiful.
Favorite movie?
Home Alone, Toy Story, Three Ninjas, Power Rangers, the movie, the first one. Those are all of them.
Okay. Well, I think without naming your age, you've just named your age.
90s, dude. Born in 89, I'm a 90s guy.
Born in 91, and my favorite movie's Twister.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's my wife's favorite movie.
Your wife is cool.
She loves it. She loves the Dorothy.
Yeah. Favorite TV show?
Doesn't exist anymore in the true format, but like Saved by the Bell, Family Matters, all those 90s of the Power Rangers back when it was like a true TV show. It wasn't like this whole sci-fi thing that it became. It was like, you know, almost like a soap opera with these superhuman powered people.
Favorite book?
Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway.
Food?
Thai food or Italian food. It's a solid, like, it's hard to choose. But I'm Italian, so Italian food for sure. But honestly, I'm a sucker for good Thai food.
Few firsts. We're going to go first concert you went to.
First concert, it would have been the NSYNC concert, but it was before they got really famous. They were doing this like little mini tour with Macy's, like the department store, like the malls. And me and my sister went and stood in line for like 2 hours to go see them at the Macy's parking lot. That was like the first concert I'd ever been to.
All right. And then first concert you played?
First concert that I played was this very small fair in the middle of nowhere, just north of where I grew up, called the Calhoun. They called it a state fair. It was not the state fair. This was like the smallest thing ever. But yeah, the Calhoun Fair. I was like maybe 14, 13 years old. That's when I played by myself. Now, as far as like the boy band stuff, like in a band, I would have been 9 years old, and I think we played Centennial Park in Atlanta for a Radio Disney thing.
Okay, and explain music, what it means to you in a minute.
Music to me is a way for me to communicate the things I don't normally know how to say too easily. And what I mean by that is I tend to get lost in my own head, in my own heart a lot, and I'll find myself overthinking things and then not knowing how to communicate those things. So music to me, either whether it's a song I'm listening to or whether it's a song I'm writing, it's more of a therapeutical process for me. That's why I truly believe music was something that in my life was chosen for me. I had no decision in it, and it was always meant to be my purpose.
And last thing, just kind of where are you the rest of the year? Kind of.
So this we're playing Mayfest here in Nashville. We've got a couple appearances on the 9th and 10th here in town, and then a performance on the 11th downtown Broadway. And then we are in Pensacola, Florida for a 4th of July festival there on the beach. I think we're also playing another show here local in Nashville the end of June, I think June 29th. There's a few things. So I'll post our schedule and share it with you and tag it, and you can share it with all your listeners.
Will do. So yeah, thank you for coming on, and go get ready to send your kids to camp.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, okay. See ya. Nice to meet
Cheers.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Bye. Bye. I hope you liked the interview. Thanks again to Chase Mitchell for zooming in. And if you liked it, hit that subscribe button. I've got some more interviews coming up that I think will like. Also, check out backlinebeat.com for more music-related content. I've got more interviews on there. Also, I've got more interviews on this channel, which will be popping up soon enough. And if you can and would like to support the channel a little bit more, there's ways to do so in the description box below. If not, like I said, just hit that subscribe button and come on this journey. Thanks, and have yourself a good one.